No. 6:04 p.m., calling the work session meeting to order. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brescher.
Here.
Councilmember Coyle. Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Patel. Councilmember Patil. Councilmember Pointer.
Present.
Councilmember Schumel.
All right.
Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975 has been provided by the annual notice sent to the Home News Tribune, Star Ledger, Desi Talk, and New India Times on December 12th, 2023, and posted main lobby of the municipal complex on that same date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now opening up the oral petition and remark, going from the list, Joel Bassoff.
Good evening, Joel Bassoff, 17 Beach Lane. I'm proud to be a member of Edison's Public. I'll try to make my remarks in the form of questions so that anyone who wants to respond will be allowed to do so under the council's rules. So first, a question about the budget. I saw that NJS 40A 4-10 states, the budget shall be adopted no later than March 20th of the calendar fiscal year or September 20th of the state fiscal year. And my question is, isn't Edison on a calendar fiscal year? And if so, shouldn't we be adopting a budget under the statute by March 20th? My question is, so how is it that we get away with not having a budget until September since we're not on the state fiscal year? Then I also have a question about the tax appeals that are on the agenda. I see that there are a number of them. So my question is, does that indicate that there's an erosion of property values that we should be concerned about? Is this like an early warning? Or does it indicate that maybe Edison is being too eager to settle tax appeals? On the Cultural Arts Commission ordinance, I see that that's on the agenda. So my question is, can we acknowledge that Council Vice President Harris worked hard to put this on the agenda? And can we thank Joyce Ship Freeman for pushing this forward during her term on the council and working very hard to see this come to fruition? It looks like the answer is yes, we can. So I know that performing arts and visual arts foster a greater understanding of each other and foster a closer sense of community. So another question is there anyone who doubts that this commission will be a boon to Edison? And I also have a question if the ordinance can be amended to remove the requirement that members of the commission necessarily be citizens. We have permanent residents, people with green cards who maybe are on a path to citizenship, and they're fully participating members of the community. And if it's allowed under state law, maybe the commission could be opened up to people regardless of citizenship status. Now I have some questions relating to land use matters. Is there anyone who's not familiar with the court decision in American Outdoor Advertising versus Edison Zoning Board? The premise of that decision is that even if the zoning board denies an application, if the neighbors don't present expert witnesses, the court will order that the variances be granted and that the project be approved. So my question is there anyone that doesn't understand that court decision? And if there's anyone who hasn't read it, would you like me to send you a copy of that decision? And I have a question, if there's anyone who thinks that a public advocate would put a stop to all development in Edison, I'm wondering if we can agree that a public advocate would just help make sure that development applications are consistent with the zoning code, with the master plan, and with the municipal land use law. And my question is there anyone who's against enforcing the zoning code and the municipal land use law? Now, regarding the Clara Barton neighborhood, I would question if the council can repeal the commercial corridor overlay for the Amboy Avenue revitalization zone. The commercial corridor overlay allows for 4-story buildings. So I would question if there's anyone who doubts that residents of Clara Barton do not want 4-story buildings. Is there anyone who would disagree that 4-story buildings turn Amboy Avenue into an urban canyon and that 4-story buildings would cast unwanted shadows on nearby residential properties? I have a question about digital billboard ordinance. Do we have a timetable for the adoption of an ordinance that would reflect current technology with digital billboards? And with the ordinance pertaining to updated warehouse definitions, is there a timetable for when that revised ordinance would be on the agenda? And I have a question about municipal broadband. I know that's come up at previous meetings. So my question is, where is there an area where that has not lost money? And I know some people might cite Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I'd ask if there's an awareness that that's a service area of over 400,000 people, while Edison only has a little over 100,000 people. So those are my questions for this meeting. Thank you.
All right. Sonia, do you want to answer the budget questions?
Sure. Under the local finance notice, the March 20th date that he's referring to, it's actually the introduction or the very last meeting that the council has for that month for introduction. Doesn't have to be adopted, but it needs to be introduced.
Okay.
As far as the tax appeals, I have Joanne Jimenez here, if you'd like her to come up and explain the trending of our tax appeals.
Sure.
Good evening, Council. On the agenda are 6, as Mr. Bassoff has stated. In your memo packet, there were, I believe, 3 others that were also settled that were complete withdrawals of the cases, as well as one of our affirmative appeals where we are granting an increase. The trend of the appeals is not that we need to be unaware. Our appeals are ongoing, as I've discussed with you all in the past. These settlements represent work that have taken several months. I've also explained in the past that the docket is very high in the state courts, and judges are at a minimum. So we are being guided to try to come up to settlements if it's so possible. Those settlements that are before you today, some of them go back to 2020. So they have taken several years to get to this point, but our commercial appeals have been steady. And again, that's another thing I wanted to note. These are all commercial appeals, which are a little bit more complex. We have seen a downward trend with our county appeals, which are where most of our residential appeals take place. And last year, we were fortunate to only have 66. So the trend with the market in today's economy has been geared to a lower number of appeals instead of a higher trend that Mr. Bassoff may be concerned with.
Is any of them related to COVID?
Some of the commercial appeals, there are 2, maybe 3 hotels that do have an influence of COVID with regards to the valuation at the time, because as I have discussed in the past, commercial real estate has different methodology that is predominant in calculating their value. So income plays a role in that, and that particular area of commercial business was impacted with COVID.
Okay. And also, from what I hear, that there's hard to get judges for this tax appeal stuff, or is that something else that I'm thinking?
There is a shortage of judges. Some people that had been nominated or under consideration have actually withdrawn their nomination because the process had taken so long.
Okay. Okay. I think for the Cultural Art Commission, we are going to be looking into the resident, and I think that concern was addressed at the legal department, or legal. And also, we're trying to cut down the number of members to 9 to make it uneven, to make it easier for that to pass through. In terms of the MLUL outdoor versus zoning, yes, we are aware, and we are looking into it. There are 2 ordinances that are drafted by Lou Raynon that I have to review. That what they do essentially is they allow, from what I understand, I'm not sure if this is 100%, I haven't had a chance to review, they allow the escrow money to be used to hire professionals if so the board deemed necessary. So that is something that they can use going forward, but again, I still have to review that. I think me, John, and Hank are planning to meet soon to review that, including the digital billboard that you requested. Again, Clara Barton, I agree with you. I think 4 stories are a little too high, and Clara Barton clearly states that they don't want 4 stories. So yeah, I think I missed a couple. Let me see. And the public advocate, I think we have discussed that at length prior. Moving forward, anybody else? Councilman Brescher.
Richard Brescher, 868 Grove Avenue. I don't need to keep that a secret. Resident called me, and I'm up here today because if I don't put it on the agenda as a discussion item, I can't ask the question, which another council president did at one time, I don't know who, which turned out to be a disaster, that we have residents that no longer came to our meeting. So we ask the residents to come to the meeting, but then we treat them and we don't answer their questions. Like we just had a resident that came here. I didn't hear anybody talk about the broadband that he brought up, or maybe we just missed that. But that's why you don't do something like that. Now, getting back to that, at the last meeting, right, when I was told that I couldn't speak for a reason. Because all of our comments were gonna come at the end, which if that was the rule, that made sense. Except our council president spoke, our BA spoke, and Hank Bignell spoke. Yet a councilman who's elected couldn't speak, and council president shut him down from speaking, which
You weren't
in my
shut down,
mind
Rich.
is wrong.
It was a courtesy.
It's the
It was a
That's
courtesy.
just where it
Councilman
goes.
It's a game you're
Councilman
You
playing.
Coyle,
allow
please.
other people
You
to
should be
speak.
here. You were elected. You should
Stop
be
my,
right
Can
here.
you stop my clock,
Joke.
please? Can you stop my clock, Marlena?
It's a giant joke. Council President, I'm sorry.
In fact, I'd like to get that 15 seconds back.
Gonna have it. Council President has order of the
Councilman
room.
Coyle, please, let him continue. Please
Okay.
continue.
So yes, other people could speak, but the council person couldn't speak. And that's where I thought was wrong. Then we came to this meeting today and the resident spoke, but we didn't wait till the end to give him answers. So I have no clue what the direction on how you handle this goes, but it should be fair and it should be adhere to everybody, council people, the administration, everybody that we have. And you're not doing that. But let me, instead of wasting this time, this was for the resident. The resident told me that they are against the soccer fields being turned over. They say we're spending too much on sewer and water. They looked at our calendar, and the calendar has an area for condos for garbage pickup or recyclable pickup. But they were under the impression that condos don't get their pickup, that they handle it privately. So that's a question. Do we or do we not? Resolutions, the way they're worded, are tough for the public to understand. And I think it was the one for the telephone company in particular that I seen. Doesn't mention anything about the telephone in the agenda, but it does give it to us in the backup. So for the resident to look at our agenda, they can't discern exactly what we're approving. So they'd like to see if we can fix that. Planning and zoning, they would like to have the screens put back up on the wall so that when people come in to do their presentations, they can be up there and people could see that. Mutual aid grant, I'm not sure. We'll skip that one. Council meeting. Oh, this goes back to me. Just so the public knows, I got an invitation to go to all the council meetings for an entire year. They asked me if I'm coming or not coming, or maybe I'm coming. Council President, I assume I'm coming to all of them. So I don't know what that was about. How many minutes do I have left, Marlena? Okay. I think I'll just use my 6 minutes at next meeting. But that would be it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So let me repeat as to why we do it this way. Most of the council members were able to get in their discussion items by Wednesday. Councilman Brescher had trouble getting it in by Wednesday, so we gave him the leniency to come in on Thursday to put it in his discussion items. Even then, I guess he missed some, and that's fair. That could happen. But you never emailed us that you had more, and this is how you wanted to present yourself. That is fine. You can conduct this way. That is okay as well. Please, let me have my time. Now, moving on to the discussion items. None of these are something that you couldn't have emailed and we couldn't have discussed, but that is fine, okay? But let's discuss it in public if you want to.
Yes, Council
Let me
President.
continue.
No, I still have time.
But you're not there.
I
You're
still
sitting,
have time.
you're
All right,
sitting
we'll
down
go.
now.
I'll go back.
All right.
So, like I explained to you at the beginning of the meeting, a resident called me today. I could show you when she called me. I could give you that whole list of items that she gave me. I'm sure the resident is sorry that she could not have looked at the agenda on Friday when it was published, asked me the questions, and then I could go back in time, like this is some kind of time machine, to Wednesday to put the questions on the agenda. So what you said made absolutely no sense. The agenda comes out on a Friday, sir. If it comes out on a Friday and the residents get it, and then they ask me a question to ask at this body, how am I supposed to do that 2 days prior? You can answer.
You have your minute, sir.
Well, I'd like to know how you plan on doing it.
I will wait.
Well, you can wait. You can wait, and I'll just sit here because I'll tell you what. I honestly, like I said at the last meeting, right? I thought you were a bad council president. I still think you're a bad council president. The only reason why you want to do this is so you can get home to your family. You never intended to think that you could get elected to put in the time that you have to put in, and the residents suffer. Also, that people can go home early.
It's not true. Not
Because
true,
people
Council
can't
President.
sit here. Stop my time, Marlene. I got a heckler. So, like, where I go with it is rules are made for everybody. And if you're not going to follow the rules and you're going to answer the public, I'm actually going to answer the public. And our chief there, if you order him, he might arrest me. But I'll go down that road. I have no problem doing it. Trust me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, as Richard Brescher said.
Council President, is his time complete? 6
Yeah,
minutes
it is.
complete? Okay.
Well, let me
I don't know what the new rule will be next, that he could,
let me
now,
just.
he can object from here. I've never seen this order in 30 years, in 30
Okay,
years on
Let
the
me
council.
just continue this. The resident asked a question, so let me answer him.
You don't know what you've done in 30 years, Joe.
Okay,
Council
Point of
President, I'd
order.
have him removed if he can't,
point
if
of
he can't be
order,
in line.
point of order. Let's just continue the meeting. I understand this is something of novelty, but we do need to answer the resident Richard Brescher. So, Mr. Richard Brescher, if a resident has a concern, they could email the clerk, and we could answer those questions. They could come up here and ask those questions, so we can answer them. And in terms of what you just said, rules are made for everybody. I think I was pretty clear as to the what rules are that we will follow, and you obviously are not seem to follow it. You did not give us the discussion items on Wednesday as asked. You chose to do it Thursday. Even then, I was lenient and put it on. Now, might be, you are right, there might be something that happens between Wednesday, and the reason Wednesday is not something I came up with on my own. This is already in our rules. This is in our ordinance. I'm following the rules here.
Fake law,
Again, let me speak.
fake law. Our attorney should answer that,
Again.
because I was told by
Let-
David that the laws for the mayor are fake.
You don't have
because
the
they
floor, sir.
limit what a council person
You
can
don't have
say.
the floor, sir.
I know, but I'm
Okay,
speaking
let me just
anyway.
continue.
So a
So
council
there are
person
rules that we have to
not make a
follow.
rule
and
that
then-
will actually
All right, I will ask for a recess, please.
Okay, Council President, motion to recess.
May I have a second?
Second.
Recess. Do I have to take a roll call for this? All right, 5 minutes recess. We'll be back.
So yes, we have these fake laws in Edison where you cannot restrict an elected official's position any longer. We couldn't do it
the
Say,
meeting.
let's start the meeting at 6:30.
Restarting the meeting at 6:33.
So we're still on all petitions, or you gonna finish?
Anyone has, all right, I will, honestly, this is a much heated debate than I want to have, and I'm more than willing to take this offline with Councilman Brusher, but if he wants to continue, we can continue here. Moving on, I do want residents to speak, so if anybody wants to come up and come on up.
Anthony DeAmron, 25 Wiley. I wait for Councilman, oh, there he is, Councilman Coyle. Councilman Coyle, I'll debate you anytime you want to debate on what you've done over the last 30 years, honestly. So we could talk offline, we could do it right here. All right. The way you treat members of this public, Councilman Coyle, is disrespectful. All right? Whether you disagree with them is one thing, but to go after them is terrible, and any council member, people that come here, Councilman Coyle, who are concerned about issues, and you continuously attack them. It's terrible. That's why this place is empty sometimes, to be quite honest with you. All right?
Let me know the record and time you're
Yeah,
talking about,
point of order.
because you're just making up
Councilman
false
Coyle.
remarks.
Yeah,
Councilman
well,
Coyle, please.
Because anything you bring up is, there's never
You gotta have an
substance.
IQ of 4 to not realize that, Councilman Coyle.
Point of order, Councilman Coyle, please let the residents finish.
Give me a break. And the time regarding the times of the meeting, Councilman President, I don't know how many meetings you've been to as a private citizen before you became a council member, but I've been in council meetings where sometimes these go 4, 5, 6 hours, and thank God some of them did go that long, because that's sometimes how long it takes for the issues to get out, for members of the council to discuss, much heated debates over certain topics, certain issues. And I'm for the, listen, nobody wants them to be that long, but if we have to be here for that long and we need information from a certain council person, we should be able to hear it. I asked the council regarding the train, the train on Vineyard Road last time, and unfortunately I had to leave before I got the answer, and that's to me unacceptable. To now make calls after the meeting to find out information, it shouldn't be that way. We go to these meetings for this reason. And I do apologize before for calling out from the city council president, as I shouldn't have done that. But regarding the train, the Conrail train there on Vineyard Road, just for as a concerned resident, my issue is really more about making the possible trek across Vineyard Road, ripping up Vineyard Road, the traffic that it will cause, the mayhem of traffic, gridlock. It's already terrible there to begin with, and I think the administration should keep an eye on this. I understand it's not their jurisdiction, but I think it becomes their jurisdiction, or they have interest in it once it does cross. If the plans do decide to cross Vineyard Road, those trains do go behind these residents' homes. They already are dealing with a lot in terms of noise, and I just like to see, or I'm sure many of these residents wanted to have the feeling that the administration will have their back. That if the plans do, if they do decide to go across Vineyard, that we're going to do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. I think that's what I know a lot of residents back there are looking for. I don't speak for everybody, but I think it's something. It's in the best interest of the town and these residents to keep an eye on it, at least. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Joyce Freeman, come on up.
Yes, quickly. 41 Main Street, Edison, New Jersey. About Xfinity and broadband and all that, I wanted to know where that's going. And then secondly, I just like to say, you can't let your emotions get so involved in you that it becomes a three-man argument back and forth. And then you just can't let one other person argue every time they want to scream out and not bang the hammer at them. I mean, in all fairness, when Council President Pointer was there, when the other person kept getting out of hand, he stopped it. He made it so that if one person can't yell back and forth, if there's no back and forth, then there can't be no back and forth for anyone. You have to do everything fairly because this is what the public is calling me. That's what they're talking about. And the public also told me the reason why they stopped coming was when I was vice president and you know who was president, they had to wait to the end of the meeting to get an answer. Now, if I'm coming and I'm 5 to 10 minutes in and I got to wait till 14 other people speak before I can get an answer, that's what happened to this. Not the 2 hour or the 4 hour, none of that stuff. The people were very, very discouraged by them not being able to get an answer at that particular time. It's not fair for people who have to wait for 14 people because other people have other things to do. So when they ask you a question, you can please at least give them the answer. It doesn't have to, and I'm not telling you to go back and forth, back and forth. I'm not telling you that. I'm saying, but you can give them the courtesy of, I don't know right now. I'll get back to you. But just give them the courtesy of answering that because with the information that Mr. Bassoff said and asked about, some of this stuff is missing. And I tell people all the time, all the questions that somebody asks before you, if you wait to the next person, there's no way you can answer them efficiently. Because let me tell you, you can't do that. Because you have to think about it at the time that it's processed and the information that you receive. And what happens is, like it happened to me, when I would come on my way to a council meeting, they say I'm going tonight. Some of the older residents who don't come out at night because of their vision problems, cataracts and other things, they will call me at the last minute and say, hey, what are they doing about such and such? What are they doing about this? Okay, so that's still a problem too, that people have vision problems. They're not coming out. You might see them in the summertime, but they don't come out a lot in the winter because if you know it gets dark by like 4:30, 5 o'clock. But I'm just saying, if somebody asks you a question at that time, don't be rude to your other council members. I believe that's a law too. That's written down too. So if we're gonna go by all laws, let's go by all of them. Let's not cherry pick the ones that we want, you know. Even if you have dissent, you're supposed to politely disagree. Ask the lawyers, isn't that what you do? You respectfully disagree with the other person? Isn't that what's done? That's all I ask. Respectfully disagree with the person. Don't go back and forth because it makes you look bad. It doesn't make the person look bad because if your parents told you, if you're arguing outside with a fool and nobody knows who the fool is, then thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public that wants to make a comment? No? Okay. Motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close public portion?
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Reports from all council committees, starting from my right. Councilman Rescher.
I'll leave this for Council Vice President for our meeting. We had two.
Councilman Joe Coyle.
None, Council President.
Council Vice President.
Okay. We had the first subcommittee meeting to the animal shelter on January 16th from 12 to 1 p.m. Unfortunately, we could not do so in person because the weather was not good then, so we did a Zoom meeting, although Councilman Brescher did get over there, having not gotten the memo that we were doing it but via Zoom. But I'm glad you did get over there. Just to start with the Haley's Harp event on January 13th with this was an adoption event. The dogs were not there, cats were not there. There was a lot of activity, apparently, a lot of people interested, and Haley's donated about $1,000 to the shelter in proceeds, so that was a good thing. Speaking of events, there are several coming up that will be proceeds that go to the animal shelter. On January 30th, next Tuesday, from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., it's Taco Tuesday at the Edison Tex-Mex Deli on 2024 Woodbridge Avenue. On February 10th, at between 12 and 4 p.m. on 13 North 4th Avenue in Highland Park, it's Pooch's at Pino's. And the 24th of February from 6, I think doors open at 6:30 p.m. St. Matthew's Church, it's Lucky Paws Bingo Night. It's $5 per family, and all proceeds go to the shelter. So those are upcoming events for the shelter. We discussed what kinds of things are working well, what's not working well, and there are there are things that are going on that are good. The isolation room is now being rehabbed with stainless steel cages, but that's a half-finished project. The cameras, I believe, have been delivered for the shelter, but need to be installed, and apparently DPW needs to have 3 consecutive 50-degree days in order to do that. There are a number of jobs that have been half-finished, and part of the problem that Dr. Feddersen, the veterinarian, had discussed was that the access to medication has been very, very slow, and in fact, she's had to pay out of pocket for some of the medications and vaccinations, and also get some directly from Little Silver, where she's a veterinarian. There's something going on with purchasing, and some issues with regard to getting the right paperwork in. We did find out we can get an emergency purchasing order if needed. Cement needs to be sealed. The staff needs to be hired. They're interviewing for volunteers at this point. They are also looking at a fostering program and a euthanasia protocol. The budget for 2024 vendors and the various needs, requests for purchases. We're looking to establish relationships with other shelters, and we need council support with versus social media to get some positive public relations for what's going on with the shelter. There are a lot of good things that are happening. So the next meeting will be February 13th at 12 noon, and that's a report on the animal shelter. We met for the Public Advocate Committee last Thursday, I believe it was, and we're at this point where we are going to be, at some point soon, I hope, we're going to be resubmitting an introduction for the ordinance. The question at this point is, I actually had saved this for discussion items, but the question is, if we cannot get the support for the public advocate, what is the protocol for getting it on the ballot for a referendum? And I would turn that to you, Mr. Attorney.
I did do a memo to you. It wasn't finished until earlier today, so it might not have gotten to you yet, but it does lay out the procedure, which is essentially that it's got to be done by petition. There are rules and procedures in the charter that essentially set the numbers, the timelines, all of that for how that petition needs to be signed, how many people need to sign it, when it needs to be submitted to the clerk, how it needs to be certified, what the time period is for certification, and then presentation to the council so that the council could then move to put it on the ballot after it's been properly certified. So it is a fairly complicated procedure in that it's got a lot of moving parts and a lot of strict deadlines that need to be adhered to in order to do it that way. And then it would be voted on by the voters of the township if that's what they sought to do. So that's the whole thing is, I think, maybe 4 or 5 pages laying out what the initiative and referendum processes are, what they're designed to do, and how they're done. So you should have that. If you don't have it now.
I just forwarded it to him.
Okay. Council President, in case he just forwarded it to you. So.
All right, thank you. Yes, I understand there are a lot of permutations and combinations of this having to do with, and I believe it's Mr. Bassoff who's done his homework on this, permutations and combinations such as whether or not the council, how many petition signatures are needed with council approval to put it on the ballot or without council approval to put it on the ballot. Is that correct, that there are different standards for that? And if it's a special election versus on a regular November election?
Well, the special election would be depending on when it's actually submitted to the council and how much time before the regular election there is. If there's more than, I think it's 90 days before the next regular election, then I believe that it has to be done by special election. From what I recall, I don't know that there's a difference in the number of signatures necessary based on whether or not the council approves of it. That I didn't see that in the charter anywhere. If there's something else in the ordinances, maybe that covers that. But from what my understanding is that it's 15% of the registered voters in the township that need to sign it.
Okay, all right. Well, to that, I would say to those of you out there in the community who have been so for reforms of the animal shelter, I'm sorry, of the, for the public advocate, if we are going to need a lot of petition signatures, we're going to need everyone to put their money where their mouth is and understand that we're going to need people to walk and go door to door to get these signatures, because it's, I think the number was somewhere between 1,500 to 20-something hundred. I don't remember. Councilman Brescher, do you remember the numbers for that at all?
It goes by the last election. I believe it's going to be somewhere around 2,500
Okay,
is where it should be. Unless
Okay.
you're going to do the other election, the off number, which is 15%.
okay, all right. It means a lot of signatures, so for those of you who are really, really down for the public advocate, we're going to need your help in order to make that happen if this has to go to the ballot. We'd love to get this done here in council and get that taken care of and have that approved as an ordinance, but if it means that we want to put this on the ballot because that's not happening here, we're going to need boots on the ground. So just putting that out there. Those are my reports, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Councilman A.J. Patil,
None at this time, sir.
Councilman Pointer.
Thank you, Council President. The Smart City Advisory Committee is going to be meeting on Thursday, the 25th. The Deer Population Subcommittee is going to be meeting on January 31st here at Council Chambers. The Historic Preservation Commission is currently figuring out its schedule for 2024. And tying in with the Billboard Subcommittee, I'll wait until discussion items on that item. Thank you, sir.
And none for me. Moving on to point of light. Any council member with point of light?
Yes, Council President.
Council Vice President?
We had a week ago Saturday, Martin Luther King Day, and again, it was a wonderful turnout that we had, and some terrific artwork that was submitted by the students, and they grouped them by various grades, but terrific artwork and essays, and it was a great event. We had some representatives from the NAACP, and it was very moving. Some wonderful dance, some really wonderful expressive dance numbers that were done. So that was another successful day in celebrating the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. Happy to welcome back Joyce Furcha, Director of Recreation. We had a meeting with her last week, and it's really nice to see her back. And I hope her health continues to be well. Finally, on another sad note, but putting it in points of light because he was such a point of light, was the passing, the really very, very sad passing of retired Sergeant Joe Luistro. And I think it's a testimony to how beloved this man was, because there was a Nixle alert earlier about Wooding Avenue. It's the viewing is at Boylan Funeral Home, and talking about today and tomorrow for the viewings that Wooding Avenue is going to be very crowded during those hours. So I think that's a testament to just how beloved he was. I know Joe was really a terrific guy. This is a guy who was so involved with the community. and that even after he was diagnosed with ALS, he ran for council. He still wanted to help out. He still wanted to be very much involved with the community. And I was so saddened to get the news of his passing. So just want a shout out to his family and all of his many, many friends in the community, and hoping that he rests in peace. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Vice President. Any other council members? Seeing none.
Council President, I just want to comment on Sergeant Luisto and the passing, and I do apologize to his family. And what a good person. He certainly led this town in a better place and in the police department, and it was wonderful to meet him. And it said, I had just received a phone call from about 6 days ago, energetic and asking questions about town residents. So
Thank you.
very sorry to hear this.
Thank you, Councilman Coyle. Seeing none, moving on to from the Business Administration, point A to D. Any questions or comments from the council?
Council President,
Councilman Brusher?
when I spoke before at the podium, here is the one that got me was the C, resolution awarding contract purchase order for VIA. When you go into the backup, then you see that it's for the telephones, and that makes it pretty good. But I don't know that the residents see what we see, and that's where I think the question came in.
Okay.
On A, I'm ecstatic actually on A. I know that before I spoke, the resident said that they didn't like it, but I myself actually am a big fan of this. This happens to be a organization I see, and they want grass, and it's enlightening to know that we have adults and parents and children here that realize the benefits of grass over plastic that's laid on top of concrete just about. Professional players are all switching out of the whole turf thing. And it was just nice to see that we're doing grass. I mean, I don't think Middlesex County is doing grass. So at least here in Edison, we do take grass and trees serious, I guess. That would be it, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Brusher. Any other council member? Okay. Sonia, who comes up with the language for these?
I mean, it's a combination of works between clerk's office, attorneys. It becomes more of a legal term. If there was a point of clarification
I think
in the resolution, what specific language is not clear, I guess, is my question.
I guess for C, some residents had concern that they didn't know that it was about telephones. So if there is something that we can make it more clear.
Sure, like
going forward.
referencing our telephone system, like
Yeah.
town-related, sure.
Yeah, something more simpler. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, and moving forward to 8 from Department of Finance, 8 through J. Any questions or comments?
Council President.
Councilman Brusher?
To the business administrator, I have a question on disbursements. How should I ask my questions about disbursements to you? Like, we have a lot of pages, right? Should I go by a page number, or do you want me to go by like 24-00118?
I mean, I would just first ask the questions to see what exactly it's referring to. So whatever gets you the most clear.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, to the business administrator, what's the easiest way for me to get you there? Which one of these numbers on each line?
Quite frankly, I think the page number would probably be more precise because the way it's broken down. So if you could reference the page number.
Okay.
And typically there's a budget line. So for example, if I were to say, you were to say to me, Sonia, page 2, under the operating supplies general, something to that effect. If you could just reference page number and then the budget.
And then the budget.
The budget usually so If you look at
I'm on page 2 now.
the page, correct, right. So up top, where you have all of the fields, the way you read this is that it says account description. So the account is the 3-09-55. And then below it, it's a POID vendor number. And then
Okay.
there's an item description. So that's the way you read each line. So if you want to just give me the page number and the budget.
Okay. No, I'll make that up. You know, it was, in looking through it, I see that there were certain things we had, like where we went to Home Depot and we bought something for $2.87, right? Which is great because we get to see what you bought. But then we have legal bills like $20,000. You know what I mean? So some items are broken out and some aren't really. And next meeting, I'll refer to those so that we can get a further breakdown of them.
So with the legal bills, I think we've talked a little bit about this, that if there were legal bills that you would like to look at, you can schedule or pop into our office, quite frankly, anytime during the day and look at the legal bills, because it may take some time for legal to redact, depending if they're personnel related. But if you come into my office, make an appointment, or just drop in during the work hours, we'd be glad to show you those specific legal bills.
Yeah, no, it's not just legal.
Okay.
It's, right, some line items are lumped, right? And some are, like the one, there's a purchase order in here for Lowe's, but there's 47 items, and the items are $2.75, $8.95, right? So I see that's really broken down, so we have the ability to do that. It's the other items that I'll bring up and I'll question. I just want to know how to refer to that in the future, and then I'll have them as part of my questions. That would be it for A.
Okay.
The bond ordinance to provide for the township-wide water meter replacement, right? I asked if those meters were township-wide, actually, and we said yes. And the question is, why are we putting water meters in Middlesex Water?
Just to clarify that, we wouldn't be putting meters in Middlesex Water, only the town meters that are owned by the town.
Okay, well, my question was, I believe it was a typo, because it says bond ordinance provided for the township-wide water meters. So the township is made up of north and south, right? We have township water and we have Middlesex water, but the water would be all the water, no?
These are for the meters that we own.
These are just for South.
Middlesex is
South
private.
Edison water. Okay. One question, I don't know if I seen something incorrectly, but on the tax appeals, is there one that we're actually getting more, or we reassess higher? Did I actually see one?
Council President, if Ms. Jimenez may come up?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There is one that's an increase, and it's an apartment complex.
Okay, you know what it was, I've never seen one that went up, and I looked, and I thought I
have
was
put a
seeing
couple
things.
before you. I have put a couple before you, but in that grand scheme of that long memo, there was one increase, yes.
I appreciate it, thank you. Thank you, that would be it, Council President.
Okay. Any other council members with questions? Councilor President. Councilman Patil?
A quick question through Council President to Sonia on the bond ordinance 8.8 million. This is just for the water meters, or this includes many more things? This is for D.
So this is for D.
It's just for water meters, or this is more than water meter? Because this amount seems to be way high for the number of water meters.
It's all of the work that goes with the installation of the water meters. I can certainly have a breakdown for you before Wednesday.
Absolutely, thank you. And my other questions definitely on the tax appeals, so if you don't mind. Very few and simple. Good to see that, we are closing the gap with the number of tax appeals, and every time it comes on the agenda, I do ask the question. So my question is, do we have anything outstanding prior to 2020?
There maybe a few. I would have to come back to you with regards to how many that are still 2018, 2019. But the majority of those have been settled.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking is there, because we are settling many of those with the, trying to catch up and trying to come close to 2023, 2024, if there is a possibility of settling those as well, because those are 2018, 17, those very outstanding. But if you can come back with the number, an approximate dollar amount for the taxable, that would be helpful.
As you know, those that are dated back are normally withdrawn
Okay,
with our settlement negotiations, but I will provide the administration with an update.
perfect. Anyone is active, like, other than withdrawn, if anything is outstanding, 17 through 2020, that would be helpful.
Okay.
And good job on settling all these tax appeals. I did look at, and as my council colleague said, one did ticked up, so that's a good thing. And I do understand the hotel business. We all know about the COVID, the businesses went down. And of course, with their occupancy rate, they would come back. But hopefully, this is the last round they are coming back. Thank you, and good job done. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. Any other council members with questions? Seeing none. Moving on to 9, from the Department of Health. A, any council members with questions or comments?
Council President,
Councilman Brescher?
this is for the veterinary services.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We, in the past, what have we used for the veterinary services? Was that like 150,000 or so?
So it was always 150,000, not to exceed. When we put out the RFPs, these are the 3 vendors that came back, which was Garden State, Island, and the traveling vet.
So we're awarding like 150 to each one of them,
Yes.
but technically, we're probably going to be about the same 150, right?
More or less I know there was a question with regard to Piscataway, if that may affect this. We're hoping that with not having Piscataway, which quite frankly was about a third of our shortfall in the report I supplied to everybody, I'm hoping that that number would come in less.
Now, when we approve this, right, you're, in essence, we're going to only spend 150,000 out of the 450. But what gets shown in our budget?
So as I'd mentioned to everyone, we did not have an animal shelter budget per se. In the 2024 fiscal year, we'll have a actual budget. I did follow up with a report to everybody with all of the expenses and revenues from the animal shelter that came out of the trust account. So that gave you more of a better picture of our expenses and revenue. But going forward, there will be a separate budget for the animal shelter for 2024. So having said that, hopefully in March, we'll introduce one and we'll have that animal shelter to you.
No, but I guess my question is, we're anticipating spending 150,000, not 450, because we're going to award it to 3 different people. In the budget, do we show 150 or do we show the 450?
450.
Okay. That was it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher. Any other council member with questions? Seeing none. Moving to number 10, from the Department of Law, A and B. Any council members with comments or questions?
Council President,
Council Vice President?
B, about the ordinance amending Chapter 2 administration by creating a subsection Cultural Arts Commission. Very brief comment. I'm thrilled. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Any other members with a comment?
Just a quick question, Council President. We have various members appointed on the Culture Art Committee. Will they carry forward, or will they be appointed as a part of commission, or this is going to be a brand-new appointment?
I believe I would want to carry them forward, but I think that would be the plan. I would leave it to Council Vice President to speak to.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
We had the Culture Arts Committee in past, right? So we have already board members appointed to that committee. Will those members continue as a part of commission?
I would think so. Now, they're going to be divided up into these terms of, I think, 3 years. Is it 2 years? I think there's several different terms, right?
Well, they're all the same terms, but they're staggered.
Staggered,
So
okay.
that with the first appointment, It's a 1 year and then a 2 year and a
Okay.
3 year, so that they are staggered appointments,
it.
so you never
Okay.
lose the entire committee all at once. My understanding is that the intention is to carry forward those appointments from the committee to the commission. But again, that'll depend on how the appointments work, who's capable of doing so, who wants to do so, who wants to be part of the commission.
Correct, and then there will be alternates. There will be 2 alternates to the commission.
That's it. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Legal, I had a question for you, Mike. For this, did we change it to 9 members? Or do we do that now?
I need to make, well, we need to make 2 changes. One, rather than citizen, which the implication there, totally understandable, would need to be a resident of Edison Township. The other one would be either 9 or 11, so that there's an odd number. I don't know how many are on the committee right now, but I know that the intention was not to bump anyone off. So if there's currently 10 members on the committee, okay, we could always do an 11-member commission, and then go from there. And if it has to be whittled down, if you know that there's already 8, you do a 9-member commission as well.
Do we do that now, or do we wait?
We'll do it before we introduce it Wednesday,
Yeah.
right?
I'll have to do it between now and
Wednesday.
and Wednesday, so I just need some guidance on whether you want to do 9 or 11. With those 2 minor changes, that'll take me, 15 minutes to make sure everything lines up right and is formatted properly.
I'll discuss that with the committee. Thank you.
Moving forward, number 11, from the Department of Planning and Engineering, A and B. Any questions or comments?
Council President,
Councilman Patel?
on A, question to administration. Sonia, this A is a good thing, because that's the strip that I'm complaining about striping, that this signal. But my question is, this improvement, $614,000, I believe, chunk of the money is coming from the grant, and only probably out of $50,000 township will be investing. Is there a reason that we picked up this particular intersection? Because we have so many intersections in the town. I keep bringing up like Rahway and Inman. We have, Eagle Boulevards. We have the Brotherhood and Hadley. We have many, I would say, sensitive areas. So what is the protocol? How we can prioritize those and we can get the grant money so that, we can start moving faster in that direction?
So the reason this was identified as an area to be addressed was because the mapping for the low and moderate income, that particular reason is why this intersection is being addressed. We'd done the roads, the sidewalks, and now we're moving on to the push buttons, and that's exactly what this is. So it was part of the Truman project. So that's typically how we would identify and how we would get funding, essentially, was to do these areas.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Any other council members with comments or questions? Seeing none, moving to number 12, from the Department of Public Works. A, any questions or comments?
Council President,
Councilman Coyle?
I just want to comment on the great job that Public Works has been doing. And I know there's a lot of salt, it's necessary, and I think our streets look great.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Coyle. Any other questions or comment? All right, seeing none, moving to 13, from the Department of Water and Sewer. A, any questions or comments? Seeing none, moving to 14, from the Chief of Police. A and B, any questions or comments?
Council President?
Councilman Brescher?
B. Well, I got the answer for A, I guess, and I mean, it seems like most of that stuff we do have, but, I don't know, maybe if they need more, like, we just authorized I think, purchase of a command trailer or something anyway, right? But the county has them. So, I mean, I guess just for us to sign up, it's not a bad thing. But when I go to B, what is this enrollment in the 1033 program for 2024? What is that?
So the 1033 program, it's essentially, it's a military program where we could essentially get those items at a cost of nothing. So whatever the military uses, computers, there's a list of different vehicles, any equipment that they have, they go through like an auction cycle, if you will, or a picking, if you will. And the reason those specific items are not in there, like a Dell or a certain vehicle is not on there, is because the list changes. But the kinds of items, non-military items, are listed on the resolution. So yeah, those are really great. It's a really great program. I know this police department has used it. I've used it in the past in other municipalities, and for example, command vehicles and vehicles used for storms that are useful for emergency purposes. Could be boats, could be, you know, some of the vehicles you see out there.
Tank.
I won't say, maybe, not non-military, if you will, but are useful for emergency purposes.
Well, I think we have, it's not a tank, but it's got big
A Hummer
wheels.
or something like that,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's got some kind of big wheels that can go under the water or something like
Correct.
that. Okay, no, that would be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher.
Council President,
Councilman Pointer?
just to make a comment on the 1033 program, and I know Sonia just mentioned it, but I just want to reemphasize, they are not military grade equipment. So if there's vehicles or anything that is auctioned off or given away, they modify it, so any weapons, any military. So I don't want people to think we're militarizing our police here. These are demilitarized items. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that information, Councilman Pointer. Moving to number 15 from the Chief of Fire. A, any questions or comments?
Council President?
Councilman Brescher?
Yes, this was actually the item when we were talking about approving a portion of the budget, right? This is for the volunteer first aid, right? So we approved it, but we didn't approve it for 105. Like, we approved, was it 12% of the budget or something moving forward at the last meeting?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that.
This is a contribution that we make, and it's by statute, so I think I've forwarded that information over to everyone. So I'm not sure.
No, the last meeting, we approved a portion of the budget, 10%, 12%.
Oh, so you're talking
You
about
mean the temporary
contracts,
budget?
the
Temporary budget
Yeah.
appropriation, right? And in there, we only had like, whatever that percentage of this 105,000. That's why I was asking at that last meeting, because I know that we don't pay them, like, we give them 105. We don't give them 10,000 and then 10,000, you know, then 10,000.
So is this for this year or last year?
This is last year, this is 2023.
Oh, okay. All right, so we already have that all appropriated, and we just give that to them at the beginning of the following year then?
Or the last quarter, so usually the
Or the
last
last
quarter.
quarter.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor President. Councilman Patil?
Yeah, just want to ask you a quick question on that. Is this going to Edison EMS? Because they changed the name from Raritan Valley to Edison Emergency.
Yes, it is. It's a combined, I believe there was one, now there was a total of 3, and now there's just the one.
Correct.
And they operate in conjunction with what we currently have through JFK.
So as long as it goes to Edison Emergency Medical Service.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Councilman, moving on to number 16 from council member of the Planning Board, Councilman Pointer.
Thank you, Council President. The next meeting is slated for next Monday, the 29th, here at Council Chambers at 7 p.m. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business, ordinance for further consideration, public hearing, and final adoption. Okay. Starting with ordinance 2202, any questions or comments? Seeing none, moving to ordinance 2203, any questions or comments? Seeing none, ordinance 2204, any questions or comments? All right, moving on to discussion items. I will start with Councilman Brescher.
Yes, I sent Sonia some paving things, and I got your response that we're going to do it in the spring. Does that who checks that? Is that engineering, or because I know we have different departments that check different things. But who would be doing that? Is that engineering?
So it could be both. In the pictures that you had sent me, I would typically send out DPW there too, because it may be something more immediate. However, if it's in the road improvement, overall project, I would probably have engineering address that. So it depends. I'd have both. I'd rather, be safe than sorry and have, and we all work together, so,
Okay.
yeah.
And just for the administration, when they were talking about the train, you know, the thing that came up is, and I asked Hank if he could, you know, reach out to the train people, just so that we were proactive and we do things like I talked to him and he was going to put a crossing in. But I asked him if he could put a silent crossing in. You know, if we don't ask for that up front, they go in, they put something in, and then they balk because now they have to tear it out, you know, to give us something a little different. The community power program, where are we with that? We passed something about having green power, right? But I don't think we signed anyone up.
I believe the program you're referring to is the energy aggregation program. So I believe that Councilman Batil also asked that question. So what we did last year was met with the firm, and right now there's no action at this moment.
Okay, so so the township's not using, we're not using any green energy or anything here.
I'd have to look at the ordinance exactly what you're referring to with the green energy.
Okay, yeah, if you could look that up. It was an ordinance, I think it was Charlie Crabville came and asked us to pass an ordinance so that all residents would get their power from green energy unless they wanted to opt out. And that was passed, I guess, like 2 years ago, so it should be implemented. So I'm looking at get an update on that. Then if I can get an update on Floyd Street, I see that we don't have anything yet, but again, if I can get an update on it, because where we are in the process, you know, any drawings that somebody might produce or paperwork, if they could just send it to me in email, just so I know someone's working on it. That was the street by J.P. Stevens with the sidewalk. And I asked about the allergy ordinance, and I was told that everybody's in compliance in Edison. So when I go to a resident and it's not in compliance, as per our ordinance, who do I bring that to?
That would be with the health department, with one of our inspectors, so they can go out to the restaurant, that particular establishment, to make sure that they are in compliance.
Well, I guess my question to you is, technically I should bring it to you, right?
You certainly can, yes.
And then this allergy ordinance has been on the books now for like 3 years. So if that restaurant was inspected 3-4 times in the last 3 years, 4 years, there should be a record of non-compliance, right? So if I find a restaurant that doesn't have it, then somebody that went out and did an inspection didn't do it? Or you would get to the bottom of that for me?
Sure, if you just
Correct.
let me know what the establishment is, I'd look into it.
Okay, I'll do that. That would be it, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher. I will jump to Councilman Pointer.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to hold off on the tree items. I had several conversations earlier today with the administration on some of the items I was going to bring up. I kind of need to take a deeper dive, so for the moment, I'm going to hold off on those comments. In regards to the billboard ordinance, I got an update from Mr. Bignell today. We had submitted a draft ordinance primarily dealing with the design standards for billboards. Now, there are certain First Amendment right aspects to billboards, which is why this is taking a little bit of longer to get to where we're at today. We did receive comment back from Mr. Bignell, so combining with the billboard subcommittee, I guess the next action steps would be for us to set up a meeting, which I'll send out tonight, establish that, review the ordinance, make sure that the subcommittee is okay with all the design standards that were suggested. And if there's any other items of consideration, hopefully address it at that point. If not, hopefully we'll have ordinance for introduction, I would hope by end of first quarter.
That sounds good. Thank you, Councilman Pointer.
Thank you, Council President.
Councilman Patel, if you don't mind, I'll take Councilman Harris. Council Vice President?
Okay, just a few. We scratched off the list, the one about the referendum for public advocate. I had gotten a question from a resident about Oprah requests being delayed, and I had discussed this, and the answer that I've gotten is that sensitive requests or search for documents require extensions for further review. In 2022, there were a total of 4,953 Oprah requests that were granted. 3,181 were general and 1,772 were to the police. In 2023, there were 4,714 that were processed, 2,751 in general and 1,963 to police. The only grounds for denial of an Oprah request are if they are not part of the government record. So that answer I got. Another resident asked, how much did the township pay for the Stoughton School building? And the answer was $1 back in 1982, did we say? That it was $1? Okay. Then my question is, getting back to the splash park, and given that water rates are increasing, I wanted to know, I had asked this question, I think, a year or so ago, about is there any possibility of building this splash park with the water that can be either recycled and maybe filtered so that we're not just wasting water, where it's not literally just going down the drain? And I wondered, are there any possibilities for such a system to be installed?
Sonia?
So we'd explored that option early on, but I believe the mechanics of it actually would cost more, but I will get you the answer exactly how we went into the non-recycling option
How you went into the non-recycling option?
of the water, as to why we did that.
Yeah, I think it's a shame. I hate to see all this water and therefore money going down the drain that way, literally. So, boy, if there's a way that can be done, if not now, at some later point, I sure would like to see that, and I think a lot of residents would too. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Councilman Patel?
Thank you, Council President. To Council President, to Administrator, Ms. Sonia. Thank you for providing the updated list. I think, half of them are sorted out at this point in time based on the responses I received. However, I have a request that if you can have someone work with me from traffic unit. So in one shot, I can explain the issues on the Maplewood Amboy, the speed signs on Oak Tree Road, the extra speed sign on the Grove Avenue, Brotherhood, the sign, New Brunswick and Talmadge. Again, these are all related with traffic. It will be more helpful if I can work with someone and maybe, have a tour to explain in one shot so we can get off those things.
Sure, I have the deputy chief here, and we'll set someone up to contact you.
Perfect, thank you. The other couple of line items are, I don't know how this is going to work, the water problem on the Bartha Avenue. I saw your response on it's a high water table area, but looks like there is no drainage system in that neighborhood. Maybe engineering has to really go there and look at what exact the situation is and probably report back to you and you can let me know.
Sure.
And the rest of the things I will wait. I know Glendale is, we had, that's going in, I don't know, it's a planning or zoning. Talmadge Road property purchase, if you can help me to understand where we stand on that.
Sure, I can certainly provide an answer to you. So this administration sent a letter to the Board of Education. We're waiting for a reply
Thank
in
you.
terms of their interest.
Sounds good. And the clarification that you asked on the number of streets they were reopened, this was very specific to by utility company, not by Edison Water or anyone. Again, When I say utility, it is more of a PSAG, Middlesex Water Company, or any of those entities which are not tied to Edison, like the township itself. That's it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. As for myself, I wanted to update on the latchkey program. Sonia, if you can give us the numbers as to, one of the questions I had is what's the neighborhood townships are doing and how much they're charging?
Sure. So we're still working on that. However, I know that having done some research, our program is probably nearly a quarter of what some of our neighboring towns are charging for programming. I will get that to you before Wednesday as far as the number goes and what some of the neighboring towns are charging.
Okay, that sounds good. The question on Scooterway, I know this is something that Open Space is really interested in. But I just wanted to ask, is there a possibility of getting the Scooterway next to the soccer field?
I think we were in discussions with that and our Public Works Director, and that's something that we can explore as we're doing the modifications to the soccer fields.
Okay. As for the sidewalk, I know we discussed last time that we were looking for the 2005 study. Do we have that?
I believe I'm still trying to obtain that one there
Okay,
for you.
so when can we get that by Wednesday if possible? And I think website, are we going? I think we already discussed it. And then the Open Space Trust Fund, I'm not sure if I got the numbers from Ken.
I don't recall seeing them, the open space updated, you wanted the updated funds?
Yes,
But just to go back on the website, so what's before the council for consideration is is rejecting the bids because we are modifying the specifications to include some mobilization for an app and some securities on the back end. So I appreciate your input on that as well.
I'm glad that the mobile optimization was one of the key features that I wanted, and as well as the interactive calendar, which ideally would link, let's say for the council meeting, it would link the videos and the files and the agenda right on the calendar. So hopefully you don't have to go through various buttons and clicks and to figure out where exactly everything is. So hopefully that will make it easier for residents that are interested in following along to follow along to the boards and the council. And that will be it. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
All right. This meeting is adjourned.